the longest prime minister in waiting, joked Atal Bihari Vajpayee to a close friend in 1988. But the tension behind this joke is very, very palpable. You asked for it, and we're here with a special episode on Neerja Chowdhury's book, How Prime Ministers Decide, dedicated to perhaps India's most charismatic Prime Minister, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. A poet, a politician, a paradox. Now, what makes his story truly interesting is that he never quite fit the mold. Born on 1924 on Christmas Day in Gwalior, Atal Bihari Vajpayee used to love reciting poetry as he walked to school with his schoolteacher father, who often corrected his pronunciation. While still in school, he joined an RSS Shakha and in 1946 became a full-time worker or Vistarak. By 1951, he moved to Delhi to help set up the Bharatiya Jan Sangh, which was an earlier avatar of the Bharatiya Janata Party. But here's what's really wild. It was India's first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who spotted Vajpayee's talent back in 1958 when he spoke in Parliament rather eloquently on the topic of foreign policy in Hindi. In response, Nehru changed his speech midway from English to Hindi just so that Vajpayee could also listen in and respond. And that's not it. In 1960, when the Soviet Premier visited India, Nehru introduced Atal Bihari Vajpayee as the future Prime Minister of India. Now that's some serious political respect across the aisle. What was Vajpayee like in personal life? Well, we know he loved to feast. He liked his kebabs, his jalebis, his samosas. He liked a good drink. Whenever he was in New York, he loved a good steak and some Mexican food. But most of all, he loved to mingle with people. And then there was Mrs. Rajkumari Kaul. Now, young Atal and young Rajkumari met when they were back in college. Love blossomed, but the pair couldn't find the blessings of their parents, and so they decided to part ways. Years passed and Vajpayee was invited to deliver a speech in Delhi University's Ramjas College. And there they met again. Sparks rekindled, and this time they did not succumb to societal pressure. Mrs. Rajkumari Kaul moved in with Atal Bihari Vajpayee along with the children who were then adopted by him. The RSS leadership was naturally furious, but there was nothing they could do because they were helpless against his mass popularity. But what was Vajpayee's real legacy? And for that, I'll take you to that fated day and that one phone call. It was May of 1998. The Vajpayee government was all of 50 days old and crisis-ridden. Commentators recommended that the Prime Minister do something bold, and he did. Patakha chorna hai. That's what Atal Bihari Vajpayee said to his chief scientific advisor, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who later became the President of India. Pakistan had just tested their Gauri missile, which was a long-range surface-to-surface missile. The timing was perfect, although some people do say that Vajpayee had already made preparations for the test prior to Pakistan's launch. No one got the whiff of it. Not the Americans, not even Vajpayee's own cabinet ministers. And finally, the paradoxes. Now, surviving in politics is no easy feat, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee indulged in some serious ideological acrobatics as he went along. For instance, in 1991, he said that it was important to build the Ram Temple to restore national honor. In 1992, when the Babri Masjid fell, he said that it was the saddest day of his life. In the early 1950s, pained by the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, he wrote a poem called Hiroshima Ki Peeda, or the agony of Hiroshima, but later went on to test nukes himself. Post Godhra, he advised the then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, to observe Raj Dharma or to resign. A week later, he retracted his statement. While he flip-flopped a lot, the man had a lot of popular support. Now, before we conclude, there's one more thing we need to talk about, and that's the 90s most invincible political jodi of Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Lal Krishna Advani. Advani and Vajpayee met in the 1950s and they got along roaringly well. Advani was also from an RSS background. This tight-knit friendship began to fray towards the end as LK Advani started gunning for the top post. He was promoted to the post of Deputy Prime Minister, and then he, along with the RSS, egged Atal Bihari Vajpayee on to call for early elections in 2004 in the hope that Advani would become Prime Minister. However, their gambit failed, they lost, and that marked the end of Vajpayee's career. So what's the final verdict? Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a member of parliament for 50 years. He was elected to the Lok Sabha 10 times and to the Rajya Sabha twice. He was also the Prime Minister who headed a government that lasted barely 13 days, the shortest in independent India. Was Vajpayee a better parliamentarian than a pracharak? Was he a moderate in a hardliners party? Was he too much of a pragmatist and always took the middle path? Maybe all of these things are true, but I would like to know what you think about your chosen Prime Minister for this week's episode. That's Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Do drop in your comments and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching.